Over the course of the last 4 or 5 weeks, you've heard us talk to you a lot about 5 different lanes. Maybe you heard us mention once or twice positional play. We've talked a lot about stretching the opposition, like tonight in training with Kyle's drills, where the wingers are playing wide in order to open up half-space lanes. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to show you 3 or 4 examples of Bayern Munich doing it. So what is positional play? Positional play is about strategically placing your players, okay, in a framework that allows you to keep possession wherever you are on the pitch. So there are 2 players occupying each of the 5 lanes. You've heard me mention this on multiple occasions. So that means that if the ball's on the left, there should always be options. No one's isolated in possession. Positional play is also about trying to position your players in between little pockets of opposition players, in between 2 players, so that you're occupying multiple players. And when you occupy multiple players, you can fracture the opposition's defence and start to pull it to pieces, because multiple players might close down one player on the ball, which means you create spare players elsewhere and you create space elsewhere. So that's a rough guide of what positional play is. Here's some examples of Bayern Munich doing it, and you can see how effective it is. So in this first example, Wolfsburg are the team in white and green. They're playing in a 4-4-2. You can see 2 strikers. Alonso is positioned, as I've just mentioned, in between 2 players. So if the player on the ball wanted to play to him, the 2 strikers have got to operate narrow. If those 2 strikers operate narrow, you can see this player who's in the left-hand half space, who might be Lauren Griffith, right, becomes more free because those 2 strikers are tucked in. So Chantel could get on the ball as Alonso if those 2 strikers are split, or Griffiths can get on that ball in the half space if the 2 strikers compact, like you just briefly saw there. Now you can see the fullback pushing on aggressively on the trigger, and you could see Griffiths moving into like a left back type position. The reason why you do this is that you can create an overload. If you look, there'll be 3 players down Bayern Munich's left hand side now. You've got a central midfielder, Lauren Griffith, you've got your left back, who could be Liv da Costa, pushing on, and then you'll have your left forward, who might either play really wide or tuck in inverted. Might be someone like Nats, who's tucking into the half space lane, and it just disjoints the opposition shape and creates a spare player. And again, you can see position between 2 players. Players are in different lanes of the football pitch, maximum width on both sides. You can see here the fullback and the winger operating in different lanes. One's on the outside, one's slightly on the inside, to give better angled support down the flanks. They're not in the same lane as each other. Again, maximum width to try and stretch those half space areas. And the spare player in this example is always Thiago. Position between 2 players, again you can see there. There's a variety of ways of implementing positional play. You can see here Bayern Munich have got the left back really high, the right back. It could easily be reversed. You could see this could be our left wing Nats playing inverted in the half space lane because that fullback's high. You could see on the far side that could be an attacking centre mid, that could be Liv Thackeray, okay, it could be Sarah Danby, could be Scotty playing in there as an inverted wide forward. Just to give you a different idea, but when you saw the clip there, you could see there were players occupying all 5 lanes. And when you have 5 players playing against the back 4, it means there's always a spare player. So the opposition then have got to ask themselves, do they want to be outnumbered in this situation? If they don't want to be outnumbered, they have to bring a midfielder into the defence to make it 5v5, in which case Bayern Munich will then start putting some of those forward players into the midfield areas to create overloads there. What I want you to focus on here is the 2 holding midfielders to stretch the opposition. It's more of a 4-2-3-1 shape at the moment. Both holding midfielders in half space and 1 attacking central midfielder in the central. They're in different lanes, something we've been working on with you guys. All the time here they're in different lanes, moving. They might interchange between them, but they're trying to ensure they're not operating in the same lanes and same spaces. So we can see Wolfsburg playing in a 4-4-2, and so Munich are playing in between the lines. So if I show the attacking centre mid here, who's in the central lane, this could be Liv Thackeray, he's playing right in between the lines to draw players in or to be a spare player. So is Alonso. Alonso's playing between the 2 strikers. Now if this player gets drawn in to Liv Thackeray, the left back could get isolated 2v1, the full back could push on. So you see this player can't really go and press Liv Thackeray in this position because it's going to create an overload down the flanks, and so as such Liv Thackeray might become a spare player in between the lines. Again, we can see maximum width on both sides, so they can either play out wide or they stretch the opposition. It always creates a spare player when you play like this. So you can see them all, it's spare players here. It's again Thiago, would be Lauren Griffith as a spare player here. strategy, trying to exploit the half space, runners in behind. We were trying to ask Nats to do that earlier on today. So the last couple of examples, this one's quite a clever one. This is the left back. I used to get Nats to do this for me on a regular basis. Play inverted, play in between two players in the half space. That's a left back moving between the lines. And again, when they get the pass, it can draw two players. Multiple players get drawn to the player. They've created maximum width. This time it's the striker. You can see the striker and the wide forward have interchanged lanes. So this time it's Lewandowski who's out wide. And this one is a goal, I think, on this example. So you can see here, this is their attacking centre mid playing in the right hand half space lane, in between two players, where a player can't get drawn to him. They don't press him quick enough so he can get on the half turn. And because he can get on the half turn, he can play forwards and switch the play. You can even see the midfielder Thiago pointing to him, switch the play, and then they can get their best confrontational players in 1v1s who are out wide. And that goal has all come because the attacking centre mid was playing between the lines, in between two players, where the opposition couldn't press them and stop them from turning, okay, and it allowed them to play forwards as a result. So let me give you an example of how we might look if we set up in a similar fashion. And like I said, there's more than one way to skin a cat, so we probably play it differently. Now I'm going to use a hypothetical 11 here, but for example, if we were playing Liv da Costa, we would probably play Liv da Costa more reserved, in a more flat back three, because she's got centre back qualities. But if we played Charlie or Ellie, we might push them right up to the halfway line, okay, so they can get on the overlap and play more aggressively. We might play Chantel in between two forwards if the opposition did play a 4-4-2, so it would draw these players in, because they don't want to be split, these players, and just allow easy access to get through and play from there. So a lot of the times that would bring these players in, which then frees up the half spaces, and that's where Lauren would come and play in these half space areas and try to get access to get on the ball from these areas in here. And of course, because if this player's deep, if this player goes on and the ball comes across here, that's the trigger that somebody like Lauren would be looking for to then come into here, where she becomes either a free player or we create an overload. Because if this player gets drawn in, you've then got a 2v1 in these areas. If this player doesn't get drawn in, like I said, she's free to get on the ball and play from there. If we want to use somebody like Scotty to play as a wide forward, we might get to play right in this little pocket between four players. Okay, where she's got the option of dropping into in between these to try and draw two players in, or to stay right between the lines. And you'd stay between the lines if this person could bring the ball out, because then they might be able to just make that pass. And again, that causes difficulties. If this player is going to press, you've got this situation going on here, or this situation going on here. If this person doesn't press, then you've got a quality player playing in between the lines with options going forward and maximum width to stretch on both sides. We saw their attacking centre mid. On the opposite side, I'd maybe have Liv Thackeray or Danby playing in here, and you could see the same objectives. They can play in this little pocket to try and stretch these two players. If you get this scenario going on here, you might be able to play straight through the middle. If these guys don't split and they stay compact because they want to protect central areas, then the half space gets freed up. And again, you could potentially, if these get drawn in, become an option in between here, or to drop in between these little pockets where it's very difficult to go and press you, because if they do go and press you, or if, particularly if it's this person, you could then create an overload down the side as you disjoint their shape. But you can see by doing this, we've got players occupied in all lanes of the football pitch.